Disclaimer.
The thoughts and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily the views of Tash, Becky, or Be Your Best You podcast.
Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes, and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up, and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this.
Hey guys, can we ask you a favour? Can we ask, if you haven't already, please make sure that you're following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you can get updated with all the latest episodes every week when they come out. You never know, it might just be the thing that you need to hear at that time. Also, don't forget you can watch us on YouTube, so make sure you head over there and subscribe to us there.
And share with all your friends.
Thanks, guys. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash.
And Becky, the guest edition.
And today we have on the show Lilli Bewley, who is a dating coach.
Yes.
Our conversation is fascinating. We've never really spoke about love and romantic relationships. We haven't had a guest on where we've spoken about this, but it was fascinating. Lilli gives us her 4 dating archetypes, which we go through. And even if you're not on the dating scene, they are so relevant for your healing journey as a person, and you can apply them to your job, money, kids, skills, anything. It was really, really fascinating how she's broken down into these 4 archetypes, which has a journey to them, like an ascension journey to them, as she called them. And we think it's going to be super helpful for you to be able to identify with them and see where you sit in them. And then she gives you the key healing points that you need to focus on to get you out of that stage and into the next stage, which ends up being the magnetic woman. And that's not necessarily the magnetic woman in dating, though obviously that's what Lilli focuses on and her expertise is in, but it's just the magnetic woman in general. We hope you enjoy, guys. This is a great one.
Yeah.
Today we have on the show Lilli Bewley. Lilli, welcome. It's lovely to have you.
Hi, Lilli.
Thank you. Thanks, ladies. I'm super excited to have this conversation today, all the way in the US, in Phoenix, Arizona, all the way out to you over in the UK. So it's exciting.
Oh, yeah, amazing. We were just saying we're really excited to have this conversation because we haven't actually spoken about love and relationships so much on the podcast. We certainly haven't had any guests come on to talk about it. So we are really interested to dive into this and also see how it kind of merges with what we talk about in terms of limiting beliefs, subconscious beliefs, and you know, kind of it's all linked, isn't it? So it's going to be a juicy conversation. But before we get started and dig into that, Lilli, could you just tell everyone a little bit about you and what it is you actually do in terms of love and relationships?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm excited to, if you haven't dove into love and relationships, I love talking about love. It's interesting because my journey is about me kind of coming into the woman that I was meant to be. I was meant to, I was born to be. And I think that's really, I think that's the core of a lot of things. And I've always been loving, I've always been caring, and I've always been kind. And just based off of the relationships that I had in the past, based off of the models that I had from my mother and my father, based off of, abuses and traumas that happened to me throughout my life, that loving and caring and kindness inside of myself kind of got abused. I didn't really learn kind of basic skills, whether that be communication skills, whether that be discernment skills. Discernment is a huge skill when it comes to choosing the right person in dating. Like, I don't know if where you ladies are in your relationship journeys, but I can almost guarantee that any lady out there that's listening to this has noticed that maybe they don't have a really good picker. Maybe they tend to choose the wrong people. And I was that way as well. And
Yeah.
again, like I it was a pattern that I had encountered, is unhealthy relationships throughout my, decades, of being in relationships. Men that really didn't like me for who I was, but I also didn't know who I was at the same time. So there was a big disconnect between what I was portraying on the outside of myself versus what I was really feeling internally. And so I got to this place in my life where I was really good at achieving. I was really good at being a straight A student. I was really good at getting validation, even whether that be, in work accolades or with men or what have you. But I still felt empty inside. Like I felt like um, I did everything that I was supposed to do. I got the good job. I got the six figures. I got the house. I got the car. I got the body. I got the relationship, all those things. But I still was like, spiritually, mentally, emotionally kind of dead. I didn't understand. I've reached this kind of pinnacle in my life where I didn't understand why I was still felt kind of unwhole. I didn't really feel like this was it. This was not what I was sold. And so, um, there was a kind of a time in my life, in my dating journey, where I hit that kind of rock bottom. I hit that place where dark night of the soul, whatever you want to call it, where I didn't understand, another man had just ghosted me after like a really great connection. I was looking at myself in the mirror. I was really emotionally distraught and crying, and just what what really came to me that night was these patterns that I was seeing in my dating and relationships was not about other people. It was more about me. And it was that, that kind of turning point of, that's when I really started. That was, 10 years ago now, but that's really when I started my own healing journey. Started to, you talk about limiting beliefs. I'd love to talk about limiting beliefs further. You talk about subconscious beliefs. There were a lot of beliefs that I held inside of myself at that time that I didn't really know that they were there. They were literally, I was so asleep. It's so crazy to think of now. But, what I really, really started to look at is, it's me that is seeking validation for other people. It's me that is putting significance, or maybe putting somebody on a pedestal over me. It's, and all of these things really started to unravel as I started to do my healing journey, right? And so, you know, session after session, coach after coach, hour after hour, week after week, I really just started to unravel these layers inside of myself based off my past, based off of the models that I had seen in my relationships, and really start to discover who I was, on the inside. And the whole journey I went through, which is, I'm sure we're going to talk about this today, is the feminine dating archetypes. And the feminine dating archetypes are actually phases in the journey of my healing, and it actually ends up being phases of my clients' journeys as well. We talk about ascension in my communities, and it's really about ascending to the next level inside of ourselves to get to what we want on the outside of ourselves. And I focus on dating and relationships, but this is also true for a job. This is also true for money or business, or, what have you. But I really did the work inside of myself to become the magnetic woman, which is the woman that I aspire to be and my clients aspire to be, which is this place of really deep knowing of who I am and what I want. And everything on the outside of me, my decisions, my behaviors, my actions, my thoughts, my beliefs, my emotions line up with, really, it's like this internal alignment that happens with the magnetic woman. It's when all of the work kind of comes together, and all of those things come into alignment. A lot of women feel kind of disconnected inside of themselves, like if you're on a diet, right? Like one part of you wants a carrot and one part of you wants ice cream, right? That's like misalignment, right? And so
Mhm.
it was really this alignment that my journey, that took me through this whole journey. And so that's what I take my clients through today. And I take my clients um through these levels of ascension. So, when we really get into it, my clients kind of discover through a quiz that we have, which we can talk about as well, where they're at a place and in their journey, and then I show them how they can up level to the next level, basically. And so again, this is all about our internal, this is about our nervous system. It's about the different parts of it inside of ourselves, about um really why all of these things are happening, why one part says one thing and one part does another, right? One part inside of ourselves. So really that's what it's all about. I mean, this follows my journey for sure, but then after so many years of doing this, I see the same kind of patterns that women go through to get to this level of magnetic woman.
Wow. I have so many questions. I love this because we're literally speaking the same language, and like you said, this doesn't just account for love, does it? This is the same for anything. You can insert whatever you're trying to like work on here with what you're doing, and I love that you're focusing on it through a lens of love. And you know you're doing with your clients like a lot of what I'm doing with mine. I'm just not focusing on relationships necessarily, but I know that when you do that inner work, when you do everything you've just said there, everything gets affected, doesn't it? Like every area of your life gets affected because you're changing yourself from within. It's not about the external reality, is it? That's what I love about this. But I'm really intrigued to hear more about the ascension through the archetypes.
Yeah.
So when you say about the feminine dating archetypes, is that something you've come up with yourself through what you saw? Oh, okay, cool. Can you tell us a little
Great
bit more
question.
about what they are? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was really a co-collaboration between me and God, really, more than anything else. I don't know, God, spirit, universe, whatever word that you'd like to use. And again, what I started to, hindsight's always 2020, right? Like I go through my journey, I'm in my journey. It's like not pretty, it's messy, it's all of the things. So it wasn't then that really the feminine dating archetypes came into an existence, but it was more looking back on these are the phases that I went through. And what I love about my work is, dating and relationships, dating in particular. If you see coaches out there, it can be very superficial. Or if you go ask like your friends and your family, like, oh, dating sucks, what should I do? All this stuff. It can be very superficial. Like, oh, just go be yourself, or just go have fun, or whatever. And then, or change this on your dating profile. And then that's supposed to fix everything. And, the women that I work with, that just doesn't work, because there's a lot of underlying subconscious and unconscious patterns that are reoccurring, that are causing our outside results. Basic law of manifestation, right? Like, which is anything that's happening on the outside of you is a direct reflection of what's happening on the inside of you. So if you're attracting emotionally unavailable men, if you're not feeling seen and heard in relationships, it's all about what's happening inside of you. Not that you're wrong, but that's just that's the target, right? Like, that's what we need to work on. So the feminine dating archetypes came from, again, a look back on my journey. And then I started to work with clients, and I started to, I don't know if you're the type of person, but people always tell me, the stuff that they never tell anybody else, like their deepest, darkest, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I know. Yeah. It's the same vibe. Right. And so we started to talk about all the things about dating that they can't tell their friends, or they're embarrassed to tell their friends and their family. Like, I keep self-sacrificing, or I keep self-abandoning in these different ways. And so there's shame around that. And so we started to talk about, like I'm a deep level person. I like to get into the deep, really fast. And through my client's journey, I started to see very specific kind of archetypes that they would fit into, that I went to. And then, with my studies about nervous system, with my studies about attachment styles, with my studies about parts work or internal family systems and inner child work and all of those things, God one day just kind of put it all together. God one day was just like, Lilli, this is it. And so that's where we started. Like, and then I started to map out a quiz, which is the feminine dating archetype quiz that anyone can take. And I'm interested, even though you're not if you may not be dating, I'm interested to hear what your archetypes are, Tash and Becky.
To do it. We're both married, but we definitely I'd be interested.
Yeah, well, patterns will show up in marriage anyways as well, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a combination of all of this knowledge that I was learning, knowledge about my journey, and then seeing my clients kind of go through these very specific gates. I call them gates. And here's why I call them gates is because I don't know, it seems like maybe you haven't had anyone come on here and talk about attachment styles on the podcast.
No, not yet, but I'm fascinated by attachment styles.
Are you? Do you know
I
what they
find it
are?
so
Like,
helpful. But
yes.
yeah, but I do, but yeah, please like explain because some people might not.
Yeah. So attachment styles is, I mean, it's been around for a while now, like 15 or 20 years. Attachment styles is basically like if you've heard anyone joke like, oh, I'm an anxious attacher, that's like attachment style. And attachment style is a really good piece of like awareness. You know, you can go on, you can Google it, like what are the attachment styles? I won't go into to it today too much. But you can Google like what is an attachment style and it'll tell you 4 different quote unquote attachment styles. And so what's important about that with the feminine dating archetypes is that for in my journey, when I looked at which attachment style I was, it was great for an awareness, but awareness without action is procrastination. And procrastination will keep you in your same patterns, right? And so what I didn't like about the attachment styles is after a while, it was a label that made me feel like I was wrong, that made me feel like I needed to be fixed, that made me feel like that, that again, there was something wrong with me. Like this was a bad thing. Like people joke about it, like, oh, I'm an anxious attacher. But I personally don't think that's funny because it leads to spiritual, emotional, and like, mental death if
Yeah.
you stay in that
Yeah.
pattern. And
Yeah.
so all that to say is that the feminine dating archetypes, what I love about them is that they are it's a map to get you to your next level. Like the attachment styles, if you go online and you take a quiz, it'll just tell you you are an anxious attacher, but it won't tell you how to get out of it. And so the feminine dating archetypes tells you, okay, based on what I know about you, after you take the quiz, this is what you need to heal inside of yourself in order to get to the next level. So that's where they came from.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that. So,
Yeah.
and can you, so, because you said you ascend up through them, so it's like stages then? It's not like, because you're either anxiously attached or you're avoidant attachment. You'll kind of, you can have a mix of them, can't you? But you're typically one or the other. With your archetypes, is it not a fixed thing? It's something that you work through?
Great question. So it's all about willingness, more than anything else. I think it's about personal willingness, right? Like, so an archetype that a lot of women get stuck in. So to answer your question, Tash, like, yeah, you can absolutely work your way out of them if you're willing to do that, right? Like, so women that come to me are willing to make change, are willing to transform inside of themselves. And so you can get stuck in them. It can be kind of like a quote unquote death sentence of where you're going to keep repeating the same cycles and the same patterns again and again and again until you change some things inside of yourself. And so the ability really to move to the next level is only based on the amount of willingness that a woman has when they come to do this work, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the same with all inner work, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always a choice. I mean, gosh, I say that all the time. It's just a choice, and you have to choose to do it or not. Because this work, as a practitioner of doing this work, I know I'm good at what I do, and I know what I do works. But if the person there hasn't come to me with already made the choice to change, it's not going to do much.
It isn't. No, it really isn't. There's no convincing someone that it isn't easy. It's a simple choice, but it isn't easy along the way. And so
Yeah.
same, yeah, I'm the same of like, okay, if you're ready, then this is the path that we need to take. But um again, the good news is that with the archetypes is that like it's pretty cool how I've identified, or God helped me really identify what it was in particular that will help the women move to the next level. It's like targeted healing basically.
Yeah, I love that, because there's so much information out there now, isn't there, on all these kind of, we can really understand ourselves intellectually, but then it's a whole nother level to actually embody
Mm,
that change and do the work to actually make it stick. And
mm,
that's why I know you mentioned the nervous system work, and I love the nervous system work as well, because
mhm.
as a hypnotherapist, for me, people tend to think that I'm just going to be working on the mind, but I saw very quickly when I started this work that you cannot just do the mindset work. We're body, mind, and soul, and you
Yeah.
have to work on all three. And the nervous system work is such a big part of it. And that, I think, is the key to the embodiment, isn't it?
Yes,
Like, you need to stop.
absolutely.
Yeah, you got to stop intellectualizing it, because I think so many of us now, because of all the information around, we intellectually know what our problems are and where they came from and what happened in our childhood, but
Mhm.
you've then got to, then what, and
Yeah,
then what. And so that, love that your
yeah.
archetypes do that. Can you tell us,
Mhm.
like, what, how many archetypes are there? Is there too many to go through, or can you tell us
Oh,
what they are?
no, we can probably go through them. There are 4. There are 4.
Oh, okay, cool.
It starts, and I'm so curious. So this is the best part of these conversations for me, because I'm so curious about where you ladies identify along your journey, what happened inside of
Yeah,
you. So this is it's so fun
yeah.
for me to talk about. So the chill woman was me for 30 years, basically. Like, that was the pattern that I ran until I started to do this work. And the chill woman in dating, or again, it could be life, right? She's super familiar with overwhelming anxiety. This tends to flare up in a span of like 24, 48, 72 hours after not hearing from the other person. So, like, nervous system, that's the fight or flight state. She gets ghosted a lot in dating, and she doesn't understand why. Like, she may be really, really good at communicating, but the pattern that she is seeing, and this is all about patterns, the pattern that she is seeing is that she gets ghosted a lot and she doesn't understand. She just doesn't get it. The chill woman tends to get physically intimate um, pretty quickly after meeting someone, even if she promises herself that she doesn't. So that's where the embodiment piece is missing, is like, I'm telling myself to do something, but I'm doing something else, right? So there's a disconnect. She attracts men who just want to hang out and chill, and she normally says yes to that because she really, really craves connection. She has complained in the past of not being seen and not being heard in relationships. And she really, what she want, like, her biggest desire, really, like, inside of herself, is she really wants to know that people are going to be there and not leave her. So the chill woman. So here, if anyone's identifying any of this, and again, the link to the quiz is datingarchetype.com. It takes 2 minutes. What you'll see in the quiz is you'll see your result, but then you'll also see on what the targeted healing is. And the targeted healing, the inner work for the chill woman, is all about boundaries for her. Energetic boundaries, time boundaries, speaking up, like, boundaries that she probably hasn't identified yet, or she has, but there's a disconnect in between holding boundaries and keeping boundaries. She needs to, or she doesn't need, but she has the opportunity to see and hear and understand what her needs and wants and desires are. So the chill woman likely has not had any needs. If I ask her, what do you need? She's like, I don't know. Right. Because her needs have been pushed down, pushed away, and pushed aside for other people. And again, this is all probably based on things that happened to her way in the past. So that's a chill woman.
Cool. Okay, chill woman. Right. Next. Oh, I love this.
Wait. Have you identified with a chill woman? Have you been the chill woman before?
Yeah, it's really,
It's
it's hard because I've been married. Well, we've both been married for like nearly 20 years.
Mm,
So we were like 18,
Yeah,
weren't
so
we?
we were really young, but I am so the chill woman I was like, before I started doing all my work, I was
yeah.
100% the chill woman in terms
Right.
of like not knowing my own needs,
Yeah.
all of that. But I don't, it's interesting because
Yeah, I know what
I
you're
don't,
gonna say.
I don't identify with how I was with men. So if I think
That's the
about,
same for me.
I wasn't needy. I wasn't waiting
No.
for their calls. I was very much like, you can chase me kind of
Yes,
thing. And
but in life,
Yeah.
you would say you were chill in other aspects of your life.
Yeah. So
Same.
that was really interesting. I really
Mm.
identified with her. But then I was trying to think, because I know there's probably, there's a lot of people listening here who maybe are in marriages and relationships. So I'm trying to think, well, how would that play out in my marriage then?
Mm.
And actually, if I then looked at what you were saying in terms of the, why aren't they texting me? Why aren't they texting me? I could look at that as kind of, if I felt like my husband was being off with me, or he was having his own stuff, I'd be like, have I done something wrong? Can you tell me that I'm okay? Like that I haven't done anything wrong? And I think that's a similar pattern, but it's just obviously we're not in dating. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense. So, yeah, my guess is if we've been through some stuff in our lives, which, I don't think you would have a podcast like this if you haven't. But then there's probably likely us going through some kind of aspect of a chill woman stage. Okay. So moving on to the fortress woman. So the fortress woman has a wall the size of the Great Wall of China around her heart. Looks like Tosh
That
knows
would have been me as well.
So the fortress woman has been hurt by love before, like really, really, really hurt by love before. And the only way to defend her heart is to not let someone in. She feels like she's fine. She's like the independent woman. When I was the fortress woman, I was the fortress woman for about 2 or 3 years. The fortress woman is a really good stage for healing, like after a breakup or something, really kind of devastating that happens. But again, if we don't do the healing that's necessary in these archetypes, then we're going to stay there. And this is the hardest one, I think, for modern women to kind of to get out of, because again, they're independent. They don't need men, right? We all don't need men, but there's also parts of her that the walls are so high that we're just not going to let somebody in just because we don't trust ourselves, basically. But we'll get to that. So the fortress woman feels like she's fine. When I was a fortress woman, I imagined, like when I did my vision boards, when I was in that stage, I imagined a life by myself, like with animals, like with a bunch of animals in a big house and no partner. I was just going to be okay with it, right? If she's dating, the fortress woman will find fault with the other person really quickly. She's also pretty critical with her friends that are dating, like she'll kind of be I don't know what the word is, but she'll kind of be like a little bit aggressive about with her, like if her friends are going through issues or things like that, she'll be like, "Oh, just cut him off. It's his fault," all this stuff. Um it's funny, when I was the fortress woman and I was, on the dating apps, one grammatical error or one like comma misspell or one misspelling or something like that, it was off, done. Like that's how strict that's, and parts of me were like, okay, this is okay. This is a hard conversation right now for any fortress women that are listening, because it's going to be very triggering, because again, they feel like they're fine. But the work with the fortress woman is less about you are fine. You're perfect. You're perfect as you are. And why are your walls so high? Why is vulnerability so scary for you? And those are the questions that we want to ask, because you can still invite someone into your life from a romantic perspective and also not have as much pain as you did in the past. So the fortress woman has a really hard time trusting others. She's that woman who just gets it done all by herself. And again, hyper independence is a trauma response. There is a part of her that does not want to be alone, but a stronger part of her that just doesn't want to feel the pain that she has had in the past. So if anyone's identifying as a fortress woman, here is what I recommend that you look at. You look at vulnerability. There are parts of you that think that vulnerability is a weakness, but vulnerability is actually a strength. So that's the healing work about inside of yourself. Also, there's a lot of self-trust work that needs to be done, because because you don't trust others, you actually do not trust yourself. You do not trust yourself to pick the right person. You don't trust your discernment. You don't trust your intuition, or even you're detached from your intuition. So it's relearning how to listen to yourself and your intuition with the fortress woman.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this because I understand now how you were saying that you can be all of them, like you
Yeah.
can jump in and out and you can move through them, because I'm thinking again, like I'm thinking about when I kind of started my whole, like this whole journey, and I kind of awoke, or spiritually awoke, whatever. You know, I was the chill woman. I was, that's who I was. But then there was moving
Elements,
through, there was
yeah.
elements of the fortress
Yeah.
woman, wasn't there?
Yeah.
And then we'd have conversations. I'm like, I don't need anyone.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I don't need any. You know, again, I hadn't been hurt in love. I haven't,
No.
fortunately, I haven't kind of had my heart broken in love in the traditional sense, I suppose. And I think this is why I'm trying to share my story, because it doesn't always have to look in one
No.
way, does it? You know, but there was definitely a part of me that thought, for protection, right, that's it. I'm gonna get those walls up. I don't need anyone. I don't need to be like, I just can have me. That's all I need, because I can't trust or rely on anyone else. And it was definitely a phase. And it's just so interesting, because obviously I wasn't necessarily going through this journey and through the lens of love and romantic relationships, but what you're saying, in order to do the healing, you're breaking down the step-by-step healing journey that I went through, because I remember one of my biggest lessons in this healing journey was to show vulnerability. And I say this all the time to my clients. Vulnerability is a superpower. You think it's a weakness. Well, you said it. You think it's a weakness, but it's the biggest strength. And honestly, so much unlocked for me when I became vulnerable. And I don't just mean in my romantic relationships. I mean, love flooded into my life through all areas I couldn't even imagine: friendships, client, random connections, through my marriage as well. So that's, it's really cool. I love this.
Well, you're giving me the chills.
Very similar, aren't we, really?
Yeah.
We seem to be repeating each other's.
Yeah.
I'm always about 2 years behind Tash, we say, in our healing journey. She gets there first.
I have friends like that too. Actually, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and and she's like, well, you're a year and a half ahead of me, and we were talking about business. You're a year and a half ahead of me, and she's like, yeah, I'm always behind. I'm like, well, hopefully, because I've blazed the trail, you're going to be 6 months behind instead of like a year and a half. So you're welcome,
Yes, that's what we say. Just like putting down the grass and laying the path for them, and they can just breeze through.
That's so easy.
Right.
I mean, that's how we rise. Like, that's how we rise as women. That's how we rise as, like, as leaders. It's how we rise as, like, society. There's so much good stuff about vulnerability, and again, hyper independence is a trauma response. So all of that, like, I have to do it. I used to be like that person, if I was, working on a project at work or something like that, and somebody would try to come in and do something for me, I would not let them do it because I didn't trust them. Like, I couldn't let go of that, the hyper independence of, I have to do this and I'm the only way. Right. And so it's vulnerability. It really is. It really is. But it's so hard. It's so hard, especially if you've been through some stuff. It really, really is. You can't just tell somebody, just be vulnerable, right? They don't know. It feels so unsafe. It feels so unsafe in your nervous system, in your body. It feels so unsafe, in all the things.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's the archetype that most people get stuck in? Because when you're speaking, I'm like thinking, I know lots of people like this who just will not be vulnerable, and that seems to be where they stay.
That's the hardest one to get out of. I typically don't work with fortress women, and that's not because I won't or don't. It's because they are less likely to come forward and say, I want to change. They're more likely to try to do things on their own.
Well, because reaching out to you is them being vulnerable, isn't it? Asking for help is being vulnerable. So you're, it's gonna stop them. And I do a lot of work with women like that, and a lot of the work that I do is helping them to be vulnerable and to trust again. Because, and the way I come from it is because when you're not being vulnerable, you're actually blocking yourself from all the from receiving abundance, receiving in whatever that looks from the universe. But you really are, aren't you? It's like your biggest barrier. When you can learn to ask for help and let down those walls, it's like the floodgates open and everything comes in. So I kind of like use a back door with them, and we work on like abundance and receiving and trust in the universe and stuff. And I feel like that kind of, yeah, it's like a little secret gateway in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Again, easier said than done. I
Oh,
really, really
yeah.
have to say that, like, if anyone hasn't noticed, like, I live, again, like, I live in the deeps, right? And I know that if someone just listens to this podcast without doing the inner work, like, oh, Lilli and Tash and Becky, they said that I need to go be vulnerable. Um, be careful with that, because what's really, it's the inside stuff about, why does vulnerability feel unsafe? What happened to me in the past when I was vulnerable? Did I get hurt? Was I in pain? Yes, absolutely. Right. What parts of me are scared to speak up? What parts of me either don't know what I need, don't know how to ask for what I need, or don't know how to ask what I need that's really in alignment with my truest needs and wants and desires? So there's, like, simple but not easy. And so I just want to put that little caveat there, because, that's one of my kind of my biggest kind of what's the word, like pet peeves about podcasting and like Instagram reels and TikToks and stuff, is that the reason that doesn't work when you go and try these things is because there's no inner level foundation. There's no foundation for these like tips and tricks and strategies and hacks. So there's my caveat.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, because I think that's so important, because it is this is where this kind of world can get toxic, isn't it? Because with the best of intentions, people are sharing, their tips and tricks, and honestly, like, I think you have to remember that these people have been through the journey. They're sharing these tips and tricks because they've done the tough work, but it has been a journey. They haven't just decided to be vulnerable. They've done it, but as a person who's watching these things, you can forget that, can't you? And then again, it goes to that, why can't I do it? Everyone else can do it, but I can't. There's something wrong with me. And then the whole shame spiral continues. And I just think it's really important. And we try and say this a lot, don't we? Like, you have to kind of meet yourself where you're at, and don't compare yourself to other people, and know that everyone has been on their own journey. And people, like us, who are on podcasts or on Instagram saying, we do this and we do that, and all you need to do is this. Don't ever think we've got our shit together,
Yeah.
because we haven't. We're still
That's true.
working through stuff, and we
That's
still
true.
struggle, and we still hit blocks and stuff. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I just think, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
that it is important to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. And just to be with an integrity about the human experience, like, you don't just unravel a pattern that's been running for 30 years. Like, that's neuroscience. Like, you just don't do that. Like, so can we go to the goddess woman?
Please, that'd be
The goddess
great.
woman?
Yeah.
Okay, goddess woman. So the goddess woman. The goddess woman has done her work. She has done a lot of personal development work. She's done a lot of inner work. And she is completely confused by love and what is showing up for her. She knows her attachment style likely. She is pretty clear. She's done the work enough to think that she knows what her needs and desires are. She's done the work with, like, she wrote it. I don't know if you have any single friends or anything like this, ladies, but um, she has written out the characteristics that she wants in her dream partner. She's written a letter to her dream partner. She maybe even has a love altar. Okay. But again, she's super, super confused, because what she thinks that she wants in her head is not showing up for her in real life. So there's a mismatch. There's a misalignment between her deepest desires and what is actually showing up for her. Like, she likely wants a masculine man, but what's showing up for her is feminine men. She likely wants someone that is emotionally available, but a lot of emotionally unavailable men are showing up for her. It could be, and again, it depends on the person. But again, there's a mismatch between her level of quote unquote clarity with where she is and actually what's showing up for her. And again, the work is not about the tips and tricks about what do we do on the outside of ourselves, but what's happening on the inside of ourselves, because for this mirror to happen. So what's interesting about the goddess woman is her outward. She's still wearing masks, basically, and this is hard for the goddess woman to see. But her outward perception, uh, her outward perception, like on IG or TikTok, or a lot of these women are in either like executive capacities, or they have a coaching business or a therapy business, or they're a helper of some kind. But what she's projecting on the outside of herself is not what's happening on the inside of herself, especially about love. Again, there's a misalignment. She thinks that she knows what she wants once again, but there's like this push-pull energy thing that she just doesn't understand, because she should be, quote unquote, should be at a better place with her dating based on the work that she's done. But again, it's not working. Something is not working. Um, Deep down, she really wants to be coveted and she wants to be chased, but sometimes she'll go into that chasing mode and she doesn't really understand, again, like the type of people that are kind of, quote unquote, making her chase. She feels that her need for a conscious relationship is intimidating. Like sometimes she gets feedback that, oh, she's too intimidating. Like when I was the goddess woman, a lot of my friends would just be like, oh, just keep it high level, don't go so deep on the first date, and things like that. And here I am with the man of my dreams who like continues to push me to go deeper inside of myself, right? So that was, that definitely wasn't great advice for me.
Mm.
If she's real with herself, she feels like she's like kind of better than or at a higher level than the men that she's attracting. So she's from like a personal development standpoint. So
Right.
she's again, there's a mismatch between who she is or what she thinks she wants and what she's attracting on the outside. Sometimes these women that are in the goddess stage, they kind of go back into being their potential partner or whoever they're dating, their teacher, their coach, but not their lover. So they're, or even maybe their mother. They tend to go into this like this kind of pattern with the relationship where they're not an equal, they're not an equal partner in the relationship. And what's interesting too about the goddess woman, some goddess women have studied masculine and feminine dynamics. And I don't know if you've talked about that on the podcast, but there's a whole other conversation to be had about masculine and feminine energies and dynamics. But sometimes a goddess woman has studied this, and she's tried all of those tips and tricks like we were just talking about, and they're not working. So the goddess woman really is about a mismatch and misalignment. And if you are the goddess woman, you are almost there. Like I was in the goddess woman stage for 6 months, but I just continued to do my work, continued to do the unraveling. And to heal for the goddess woman is all about, so this is the gate to the magnetic woman. The magnetic woman is like our aspiration, my aspiration. Again, not 100% of the time. I'm definitely human, like you were talking about, Tash. So to heal for the goddess woman is all about perfectionism and control. So the goddess woman, again, is wearing some masks about who she is. Even though she's done a lot of work, there are these parts inside of her that are really holding on to this perfect vision of herself, but also the perfect vision of what is she is trying to attract on the outside. And holding on to that perfectionism and control about how this is supposed to go down, how you're supposed to meet your partner, how everything is supposed to happen is really blocking like love basically from coming in. Does that all make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah,
know
I think
anyone that's a goddess woman, or have you been in the goddess woman phase?
definitely been in that phase.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if that's the longest one that I've been in,
Yeah,
the
for you.
perfectionism and the control. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like I can see myself as a goddess woman in stuff outside of love as
Yeah.
well.
Business is big on
Yeah.
this one
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, and it's so funny you say that because I just literally did an Instagram reel yesterday, basically explaining the goddess woman, which is so funny.
That's so funny.
Yeah, because I think that it was really important. It was like I had like a realization. I'm like, oh, I've just put myself in another box inside another fixed limitation. But because I've done all this work and because I feel like I'm much more aware and I've made such a change to my identity, you tend to think, oh no, I don't not like I always know that there's work to be done. I always know that. But I think subconsciously there's something that says,
Yeah.
well, no, I've changed. I've grown so much. Now everything should be working out for me. Like
Yeah.
what else is there to do? And it's like, yeah, like you, once you realize, oh, you've just put yourself in another box, you need to kind of expand out of that now. Yes, you've grown and changed, but there's more to go. I think that's when you can get outside of the goddess woman kind of. And I think a lot of that is about, I don't know, for me anyway, it's about surrender, isn't it? Because I
Yeah.
guess that's like the opposite of the control. It's learning to
Exactly.
surrender. Yeah.
Yeah. And again,
Yeah.
same thing with vulnerability, like surrender. If it was safe to surrender, you would have already done it by now. Like
Yeah.
internal, internally for your different parts inside of you that have this grip on life or the way things should be or the results or the expectation. If it was safe, and again, like that's this whole thing about like, oh, just surrender or just let go, right? Like parts, again, if you could do this, you would have already done it by now, right? And
Yeah.
so there are parts inside of you that believe, even after the work that you've already done. And what's great about the goddess woman is most of the time, goddess women don't get stuck here because they've seen the they've seen the benefits of doing the inner work, right, already. And so it's just
Yeah.
like literally, if you continue to do the work, you like for me, again, I was in the goddess woman stage 6 months to a year. But again, there are parts inside of you, if you're the goddess woman, that believe that perfection and control is the only like is safe, basically. So it's unsafe to not have to not be perfect. It's unsafe to not have control. And so that is really the targeted healing work. And then you can let go and then you
Yeah.
can surrender, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm just going to surrender. And that's the hardest thing, I think, sometimes with this goddess woman stage is like, again, knowing what you quote unquote need to do, but actually really, if you're getting at the deeper level, is really, really getting in and digging in deep about, can my part really do this? And if it can't, why not? What's happening? What's happening inside of us? Like, why does this feel unsafe? And there's a whole, talking about limiting beliefs and subconscious beliefs. There's a lot of beliefs in there still. It's really like excavating, like unlayering the onion and about, okay, well, what's happening? And just getting curious about that.
Do you find that with the goddess women that you work with, a lot of them feel very frustrated?
Oh,
Is that like
extremely
a common
frustrated.
theme? Yeah.
Frustrated and
Yeah.
confused, again, because
Yeah.
what has worked for them in the past. So here's the crazy, mind-blowing thing about the goddess woman is everything that I've got, like, especially the inner work, and maybe it may be about love or maybe business or whatever it is, but everything that has gotten them up to the point of the goddess woman is not working anymore. And that's the hard part.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. So the
Yeah.
rewiring is about, again, is in our body, in our brain, in our soul, about um where am I feeling unsafe? Again, a lot of it is perfectionism and a lot of it is control. And the hard thing is the mindset shift of why isn't this working? The same things that I have been doing isn't working anymore. And that's just because I always say, like in my work, is that you're just on an edge. You're on an edge. And likely you're on an edge because you've been trying it by yourself for a long time. And if you were able to get to that, whatever it is that's running subconsciously and unconsciously, you would have already done it by now. And so that's the
Yeah.
work that, again, it's just like the last little layer of work.
So before we just go on to your final archetype, I have a feeling that most of the women listening to our podcast are probably going to be around the goddess stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what if everyone's listening and they're like, that's me. So Lily, how do I do it then?
What do
What do
I
I have to
do? How
do?
do I do?
Yeah.
So
What would you say to them?
I mean, I would say just really target your healing on perfectionism and control. I mean, and it is so right on. I have a lot of, obviously, I have programs for that. I'm sure Tosh can help you. Becky, do you do this work as well?
No, I
No?
don't. I'm not a
Okay.
hypnotherapist. No,
Oh,
she's the
okay.
expert.
So, is really doing the work. And again, if you can get a practitioner involved with this, better like a therapist or a coach, because again, this is subconscious and unconscious. If you were able to get to this consciously, you would have already done it by now. Right. And so if you're wanting to call in your dream partner, if you're wanting to heal these perfectionisms and control, is find a place where you can work on this. Again, I have programs. I'm sure Tosh, you have programs as well. And if you're going to therapy, say, I want to work on my perfectionism and control, right? And that's going to be a very, very vulnerable thing probably to ask for, but that is really, really what those parts of you need in order to kind of get to this next level, which is the magnetic woman. So again, no kind of tips or tricks or strategies other than yes, that's me. And then take some action on that. Again, awareness without action is procrastination, and procrastination is a protective trauma response. So again, if parts inside of you are, have kind of just been avoiding maybe that inner work or anything like that, especially around perfectionism and control, then, there it is. There's your target. There's your arrow. There's your signpost to go do the work on that. Because you're almost there. You literally are almost there. It takes, depending on how long that pattern is running, it doesn't, it's pretty quick again, because you're doing the very similar work that you've done in the past, but now it's just it's the next level, basically.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. And I think, you said about the procrastination as well. Doesn't that come beautifully hand in hand with the perfectionism? They're two sides of the same coin, aren't they? I think. And I guess I would, from my perspective as well, I would suggest is, I think sometimes it's going back to this embodiment that we spoke about at the beginning of the podcast. I think sometimes the goddess woman in my kind of experience can get too up in their head and too intellectualized because they have so much information, because that's what they kind of, it's easier to get the information. And I think a lot of goddess women struggle to actually sit themselves down and do the embodiment work. So do the journaling, do the nervous system work, all of those kind of things where you're actually getting in touch with your feelings rather than trying to work it out from a head kind of perspective. And because I think you'll be surprised how, because like you said, you're already there, you're on the precipice, you know how this stuff works, you understand it, you get it. So when you just give yourself that little bit of time to do the embodiment nervous system work, you're probably gonna get to the root cause of where that next jump is.
Absolutely it is a lot about that. It's about connecting the brain with the body. When you're kind of at the goddess woman stage and you say, like, this is why affirmations don't really work a lot of times, or journaling sometimes doesn't work, is because you say something, but again, parts of you don't believe it inside. And that parts of you don't believe it by what you're attracting on the outside of you. You also know that parts of you don't believe it if, like, your actions or behaviors aren't in alignment with what it is that you believe, right? So like saying, like, I am enough in the mirror 1,000 times doesn't do anything if a part of me is really, really carrying that story of I am enough, right? It really believes I am not enough, right? And so if a part of me believes that, a part of me that's running my dating life instead of my highest self, which is a lot of people out there, whether they want to admit it or not, if that part is running that story, then my actions and behaviors are going to be self-sacrificing. They're going to be self-abandoning. They're going to either or try to control what's going to happen. If we're talking about the goddess woman. So yeah, it's pretty deep level work.
And it's such a shame, isn't it? I feel like in marriages, that can be the stage a lot of people get so frustrated with. That's when it can all break down. And yet, like you're saying, you're so close to, if you could just move that on to the next archetype,
What is the next archetype?
Yes.
I want to know what the last archetype is.
Yeah, the last one is the magnetic woman. So the magnetic woman is the woman that I aspire to be. Again, it's what my clients take on, is what their aspirations are. And the magnetic woman, likely, if you've gone through all of these stages, you haven't, like, your mother probably wasn't a magnetic woman. Likely the models that you've had as far as women in your life, maybe kind of on the outside of you've seen a version of this, but nothing really, really close to you. But the magnetic woman is a woman who knows who she is, knows what she wants. She honors herself by setting to and sticking with is very important, boundaries, specifically dating boundaries. But again, if we're talking about not outside of dating, just boundaries in general. She is loving and caring of herself when she messes up. Like the goddess has a very, very strong inner critic, and that's the part of her that holds on to control. The magnetic woman, her internal worth and internal magnetism, again, like you said, Tasha, has moved from her head to her body. So we're talking about inner alignment here. There's a mismatch in her dating life. So we work on inner alignment inside of herself. She knows how to receive love deeply. And again, she's done the work because in the past, receiving has been unsafe or dangerous. So she's done the inner work to actually learn how that receiving and vulnerability, like you were talking about, is actually safe. She asks for what she wants. She knows what her needs and desires are. She asks for what she wants and her needs and desires are, and is okay either way on what the person does with that, whether she gets them or she doesn't. That's a very secure attachment if we're talking about attachment styles.
Yeah.
In dating, the magnetic woman recognizes very quickly who is right for her and who is not. No more questioning, no more overthinking, no more playing games, no more is he for me, is he not for me, no more going to ask for advice from me, therapists, family, friends, anything like that. She just knows because she's discerning inside of herself. So she doesn't idolize her dating interest. She's actually able to see and hear and observe him and receive his actions. But all of this is information because she does not form a quick attachment. She's more attached to herself and more calm inside of herself, talk about nervous system, so that she can actually be in her prefrontal cortex. When you're in fight or flight, when you're in depression, you actually have less access to your prefrontal cortex. So when you're calm inside of yourself, you are able to discern who is right for you and who is not. She's patient. She's patient with herself because she's really honoring herself in all of these ways. And in my life, like um, I have observed the magnetic woman, and the magnetic woman to me isn't it's like this energy that she carries when she walks into a room. All of the energy is kind of drawn towards her, but it's not because of what she looks like or what she's wearing or anything like that. It's really this energy that she has that is in her shoulders. It's in her, the way that she carries herself. Her voice has this level of discernment and confidence and esteem and certainty. And there's this whole vibe about the magnetic woman that when you start to become this version of yourself, and this is in everyone, this isn't just like, this is only for Lilli, this is only for Tosh, this is only for Becky. This is really getting to the root of who you were born to be, what God made you to be, universe made you to be. And again, I focus on love, but when you become the magnetic woman, you literally are a beacon in this world of what it is that you truly desire. And I don't believe any of the dating stats out there, any of the doomsday stuff anymore. I used to think all the good men are taken. I used to, there aren't any good men in my town. But literally when you become the magnetic woman, and you feel it in your body, the energetic resonance of abundance in this world. And that comes to love as well.
I love that. Thank you, Lilli. Thank you. That was like, I
Yeah.
could feel her when you were like
Yeah,
describing her.
me
I could feel her, and I love that we're so aligned with the way we kind of like see that I'm exactly the same. I believe that is who we truly are, and we just need to peel back all those layers to reveal her. And I love that you're talking about it through that lens of love. And I hope that it gives people hope and motivation to know that it is possible. And I think that people are really going to find your archetypes helpful. I know that I've found them really, really helpful to hear. They make complete sense. And I love that you can use them not just for love, but for anything. And I think people will hear themselves in all of those stories, and it's going to give them a little bit of an idea of a way forward as to what they need to work on, and, to get themselves to the next level, knowing that there is a next level.
Yeah.
And Yeah, thank you so much. This is
Thank
like,
you.
yeah, we could carry. We're probably gonna have to do a part 2 because we could carry on talking, deeper into all the limiting beliefs and the work that we could do. But I just think that's so helpful. That's
Yeah,
gold right
it
there.
was.
So thank you for sharing that, and
Thank
thank you for
you.
creating.
Yeah, well,
Ama-
I thank God or the universe or spirit or whatever. But yeah, it was definitely a co-creation, and I so appreciate this time. I love, like I said, I love talking about this, and it really, I do want to bring hope because when I was in these patterns, I felt hopeless. I felt
Mm,
like, again, like I was wrong or I was broken. Definitely when I'm talking dark night of the soul, I'm talking dark night of the soul, like that kind of
really.
place. And
Yeah.
there again, there is hope, right? Like if I can do this, anyone can do this. If Tosh can do it, if
Yeah.
Becky can do it,
Yeah.
anybody can do this. And again, it's really about the willingness to step into maybe the unknown for now. Because what's interesting about all this is that we don't know what we don't know. And so like having a love like I have now in my life, parts of me still kind of don't even believe that he's real, in some ways. He is
No.
real, by the way, but
Yeah.
he's not a figment of my own imagination. But parts of me still don't even believe that. Like, how did this happen? Like, some of my
Yeah.
parts are like, who is this man? Like, and it was really all about, again, the healing work that I did inside of myself, which I take my clients through too.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. And Lily will obviously leave all your details in the show notes. So anybody that wants to go and check out Lily's programs, do make sure you do her archetype quiz. We're going to go do that now, aren't we?
Yeah. Oh, please, can you message me? I want to know. I'm so curious.
Yes,
And yeah,
absolutely.
it's the website for the quiz is datingarchetype.com, just in case anyone wants to know. But yeah, please let me
Perfect.
know.
Thank you. Yes, we will. We absolutely will. Lily, it's
Definitely.
been an absolute pleasure. Thank you
Thank
so much. It's
you.
been lovely to have you on.
Thank you, ladies.
Right, guys, that's it for another episode. We will see you next time. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.